Hi, I wanna present about Gandhi and the decolonization of India. I'm gonna talk about who Gandhi was and how his personality was like. His full name was Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, but he was known as Mahatma Gandhi among people, which means great soul Gandhi. And the reason people called him that was because he was the one who led the jewel in the crown to independence, meaning that he helped to free India from English colonial rule. He inspired movements for civil rights and freedom across the whole world and not only India. Gandhi was a Western educated man who studied law in England. He was a wealthy lawyer and who lived in South Africa. It can be seen from the movie that he was a wealthy man over there because of the way he dresses and also the way he travels. Because in the movie he says that he always travels in first class. When he gets to India, he experiences racism and gets shocked by the way Indian people are treated. It's difficult for him to see that Indian people have to carry a pass in their own country and even be fingerprinted like criminals. He therefore starts a protest and gives courage to the Indian men that they should not give up their self-respect and have to fight and make the British Empire to see their injustice. He starts his movement by burning the passes they got from British government. And even though the whole British government is against them, he won't stop. He tells the Indian people that they should not kill a man in their protest, but they should employ a nonviolent resistance. In his process to free India from English colonial rule, he does a lot of movements like telling Indian people to stop buying British clothes and start producing their own Indian clothes. That's therefore he changed from having a suit to Indian traditional clothes. British Empire saw him as a threat for their kingdom and tried so many times to stop him by sending him to jail, but nothing would stop Gandhi, and he even made sure that the Indian people would continue their process even without Gandhi. Before Gandhi gets assassinated, he makes sure that no violence would be used against different nations. Divide and rule is used to refer to a policy which is intended to keep someone in a position of power by causing disagreement between people. In divide and rule strategy, a larger concentration of power is divided into pieces that individually have less power. This was a tactic used by British to govern large population with few forces. The British Empire wanted to create division amongst Indian because by creating division, the focus is drawn away from the British government. Hindus will be too busy fighting with the Muslims, and not only will they fight each other, but Hindus will fight with other Hindus and Muslims with other Muslims. And a hate would be created in the heart of one Hindus towards another. It's a policy that the British Empire used in India because they didn't want and Muslims to be a united community. The term ahimsa is a religious principle of nonviolence which applies to all living things. The most popular advocate of the principle of ahimsa was Gandhi, who used it to fight with the colonial rule of British Empire. Gandhi started a passive resistance campaign, which means an action of nonviolent protest or resistance to authority. Passive resistance came into common use during the independence struggle in India. What Gandhi wanted with his passive resistance campaign, or in other words, nonviolent protest, was not to make British Empire suffer, but instead to show them that Indians are willing to suffer themselves in order to change the laws. And it could be seen in the movie that he kept on burning the passes even when the British soldier was beating him to death. What Gandhi meant by that sentence in the first question was that it's the Indians who are obeying the British government. If they withdraw their cooperation from the British Empire, it could not function in India, and they would be forced to leave. Not only will it apply for Indians, but no government can last if the people withdraw their consent to be governed and stop obeying government's order. Second question. Gandhi's tactic was used by the black community in the US. They could without violence make the whites realize that the unethical segregation of the population based on their color was wrong. Americans with the civil rights movement freed themselves of the unethical segregation and brought their society more in line with the principles of the Declaration of Independence. In other words, they forced a social change in segregation law and created a law to combat racism and discrimination with minimal violence. Third question, the mechanism of nonviolent mass action uncovered the abuses of the oppressors and subject the beliefs and actions of the oppressor to scrutiny. A well-conceived nonviolent mass action campaign exposes contradictions between the oppressor's underlying values and the values served by the oppressor's action. In a successful campaign, the oppressor will change its policies in order to respond to the aroused public opinion and economic pressure. Fourth question, it would deny Gandhi and his followers the advantages of the moral high ground, which would have given the British an excuse for their violent repression of the protests.